Thank you so much for joining us, CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, as the U.S. pushes phase 2 of President Donald Trump's Middle East peace plan, the president again warning Hamas to behave, saying if they're not, we are going to go ahead and eradicate them if we have to. And as the peace talks continue, we're going to take a look at how Israel is trying to restore its tourism industry after 2 years of war. President Donald Trump stepping up the pressure on the nation of Colombia, trying to cut the flow of drugs into the United States. Planned Parenthood closing more abortion clinics this year, but many wonder, with abortion pills so easily available, does it make a difference? And a new life for an abandoned church, how some say its restoration is fulfilling biblical prophecy and sparking a revival in Washington, D.C. All those stories and more today on CBN NewsWatch.
This is CBN NewsWatch.
It is Tuesday, the 21st of October. We're going to begin this half hour in the Middle East, where Vice President J.D. Vance arrived in Israel today for talks about the second phase of President Donald Trump's peace deal, while U.S. mediators Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner are already in the country, pressing the completion of phase 1. And as President Trump again issues a warning to Hamas, CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl brings us the story now from Jerusalem.
Vice President Vance arrived in Israel for a 3-day visit to help take President Trump's peace plan into the next phase. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met with Trump negotiators Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner on Monday against the backdrop of Hamas's violation of the agreement, attacking Israel and killing 2 soldiers, and Israel's strong response. Trump warned Hamas to get in line or face the consequences.
We made a deal with Hamas that, they're going to be very good, they're going to behave, they're going to be nice, and if they're not, we're going to go and we're going to eradicate them if we have to. They'll be eradicated.
On the 700 Club Monday, Jonathan Schanzer of the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies said Hamas has no intention of disarming.
This is a terrorist organization that's been around since 1988. They don't want to disarm. They don't want to dismantle themselves. They want to stay in power. They control Gaza, or at least they did. Now they control a part of Gaza, but they don't want to relinquish that power. And I think that's very clear. They also exist to destroy the state of Israel.
He also said the Trump administration should be pressuring Turkey and Qatar, who vouched for Hamas and brought the group to the negotiating table.
The United States needs to come down on the Turks and the Qataris like a ton of bricks. This is where the leverage is for Hamas, and we need to get them back into the deal, complying with the deal.
Meanwhile, Israel resumed humanitarian aid deliveries on Monday after the ceasefire in Gaza was reinstated. Hamas returned the body of another deceased hostage overnight. Tal Haimi, a member of the emergency response team, died defending his community, Kibbutz Nir Yitzhak, and his body was taken to Gaza. He leaves behind a wife and 4 children. The youngest was born after his murder. 15 hostage bodies that were supposed to be returned last week are still in Gaza. Witkoff and Kushner met on Tuesday with recently released hostages who thanked them and President Trump for making their release a priority and securing their freedom. Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
The Israel-Hamas peace deal is bringing hope to Israel's tourism industry, which has been decimated by the 2-year-long war. The number of visitors to Israel is at historic lows, and it is costing the country billions of dollars. CBN's Paul Petit reports now from Jerusalem.
These days, the Garden Tomb in Jerusalem is empty in more ways than one.
Tourism is essentially not a functioning industry anymore.
CBN News spoke to Israeli tour guide Yuri Goldflam just outside the Upper Room, the traditional location of Jesus' Last Supper. It's void of visitors as well.
It used to be a 6th largest export industry in Israel, and today it doesn't exist as an industry. It's not a viable industry. There are not enough tourists to come to fill calendars.
It's been a brutal 1-2 punch for the country's tourism industry. First came the pandemic of 2020, then just months after it ended in May of 2023 came the Hamas terrorist attack of October 7.
As you can see right now, where are all the people?
Yehuda Deutsch describes what the City of David tours used to look like.
It could hold 200-300 people, and that means multiple groups would be seated, and you would see a few guides And right now, if you look over the railing, you'll just see nothing. There's no one there.
It's no different at the Garden of Gethsemane. According to the Israel Ministry of Tourism, the country is suffering record losses. Tourism has plummeted by almost 70% since the war in Gaza. That's 3.5 million fewer visitors than the record year of 2019. It adds up to a $3.4 billion loss, with hotel occupancy at historic lows in some areas. Merchants like Yudi Miriaz describes the impact in Jerusalem's Old City.
You see the street is empty right now, and it was more or less for the last 2 years, a bit, sometimes a few more days. It's most of the time it's me, and there's a stray cat to come to stay with me.
While Yudi is still painting, tourism facilities and hotels have either reduced operations or temporarily closed their doors. Yehuda says he's fortunate to still be employed.
I'll say two things that I have pain when I say it, but because it hurts. A lot of people had to change their profession. Many people left the tour guiding business, went into other fields. I'm familiar with a lot of people who went into financial difficulties and affected their lives harshly.
I have to say that I'm lucky. I'm lucky and I'm blessed.
In order to stay afloat, Yuri had to reinvent himself. In addition to making online videos and tour apps, he travels to the United States and speaks at churches about Israel history, the war in Gaza, October 7th, an Israeli one-man PR firm battling against many of the false accusations about what's happening here.
First of all, I speak to audiences who are friendly, like people who support Israel, people who intuitively understand that in this great battle, there's good and there is evil, there is right and there is wrong, and Israel is on the right side of this equation.
Yuri's speaking engagements in the U.S. extend to civic and business groups, synagogues, and state legislatures. He plans to return to the U.S. soon.
Most people don't know where the Gaza Strip is. They couldn't find the West Bank on a map.
Yuri and Yehuda say misconceptions around geography here contributes to the lack of visitors. Jerusalem is a good 90-minute drive to the Gaza Strip.
It's what you see on the news is in a very specific area. It is completely irrelevant to the rest of the country.
The silver lining is that all these sites that are usually very, very crowded are now empty. So if you do want to come, and you do want to travel to Israel, and Israel's safe. I mean, you walk around here, and people walk around Israel. My kids go to school, kids go walk around, it's fine. Israel is safe to visit, and if you do want to come, you will enjoy all the popular tourist sites without any lines or any crowds. It's quite wonderful.
Now there's new hope with the ceasefire pausing 2 years of war. Still, the tourism industry is prepared for a long uphill recovery. Yudi isn't concerned, as he repeats his answer when often asked how slow tourism here has been.
And in many ways, we are like fishermen. Imagine fishermen at the Sea of Galilee and it's a stormy day. Would you be able to go and fish now? It's a stormy day. But you have alternatives. You can sit, fix your nets, prepare other things, and the storm will be over. So I'm here. I know it's going to be stormy, but it will be over because storms make us better.
In Jerusalem, Paul Petit, CBN News.
Coming up, President Trump stepping up the pressure on the nation of Colombia over the war on drugs, and Planned Parenthood closing more of its locations this year. But what is the impact it will have as abortion pills are now easily available? We're going to take a look at that question and bring you more stories when we come back. You're watching CBN NewsWatch. Tensions are rising as the U.S. military continues targeted strikes against alleged drug traffickers in the Caribbean. President Donald Trump now vowing to cut off aid to Colombia, accusing its president of being an illegal drug leader. CBN national security correspondent Caitlin Burke brings us the story now, reporting from Washington.
Colombian President Gustavo Petro rejected Trump's accusations, describing himself as the main enemy of drugs in his country. A statement from the Colombian Foreign Ministry calls the comments, quote, a direct threat to national sovereignty. Still, President Trump isn't backing down.
They make drugs. They refine drugs. They make cocaine. They have cocaine factories. They have no fight against drugs.
This latest escalation follows a series of U.S. strikes on alleged drug boats in the region, the most recent this past Friday. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth posting on X that the vessel had connections to a Colombian terrorist organization and carried a substantial amount of narcotics. This is the 7th confirmed U.S. strike, leaving a total death toll of 32, while also raising questions about the administration's use of deadly force.
All these people have been blown up without us knowing their name, without any evidence of a crime.
The U.S. routinely conducts military strikes to kill terrorists in foreign countries, not even talking about international waters, which is what we're talking here. When somebody's committing an active crime that kills individuals, it is allowed and fair and routine for the U.S. military to use force against them.
The U.S. military has amassed a large buildup in the Caribbean, including ships, fighter jets, and more than 4,500 Marines and sailors. Naval Station Roosevelt Roads in Puerto Rico also recently reopened. Friday, the administration released new images of military demonstrations off the coast of Venezuela, where it's now conducting, quote, training missions.
If you are a drug dealer, you're going to think twice, 3 times, 4 times before you go on a boat to traffic drugs to the Caribbean. So what we're going to see is a reduction in the inflow of drugs to the U.S. temporarily. Maybe they will try to redirect it through the Panamanian Isthmus, through land, through Mexico and into the U.S. But the thing is, the U.S., now with the cooperation of the Panamanian government, which is an ally, has a very good chance of catching the drugs in Panama because it's a very narrow strip of land that you can easily control and patrol.
The pressure campaign has some questioning whether it's part of a broader strategy to oust Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Manhattan Institute fellow Daniel DiMartino, the founder of the Dissident Project, tells CBN News the Maduro regime and the Venezuelan drug trafficking organization are one and the same.
We either keep boats and military strikes on the Caribbean perpetually, or we stop the Maduro cartel once and for all, which is not only about drugs, it's also about illegal immigration, it's about crime, it's about Russia and China.
The Trump administration has repeatedly said it does not recognize Maduro as a legitimate head of state, but rather the leader of a drug cartel. In August, the administration offered a $50 million reward for information leading to his arrest. Caitlin Burke, CBN News, Washington.
This year, Planned Parenthood is closing more than 40 of its locations, but now that women can order abortion pills online or pick them up from the drugstore, some question whether the closures will matter. Heather Sells takes a look.
Planned Parenthood's decision to shut down more than 40 clinics includes this mega site, a 78,000-foot building in Houston. For years, it was considered one of the largest abortion clinics in the Western Hemisphere. In Louisiana, Planned Parenthood plans to end all operations.
Still, pro-life leaders see little consolation, mainly because women no longer need a brick-and-mortar clinic to get an abortion. They can easily access pills online or at their neighborhood pharmacy.
They've now opened up this wild, wild west of abortion in America, where even if you live in a pro-life state, a state that has moved to make abortion a thing in the past, abortions are still happening in your state.
Kristen Hawkins, president of Students for Life of America, is leading a charge against pharmacies like Walgreens and CVS, demanding they stop dispensing the pills. One recent victory came when Costco announced it will not sell them. The bigger concern, however, is online.
We're concerned about those, and we're concerned about these mail-order abortion pills. I mean, we have states like West Virginia, Kentucky that have made abortion a thing in the past, where now there's billboards being widely distributed across the state, telling women in those states where they can get illegal chemical abortion pills shipped to them.
The abortion lobby used to say that abortion is a decision between a woman and her doctor. And you may have noticed that they don't use that talking point very much anymore, because what they've done, what the Biden administration essentially did, was completely remove the doctor from the picture so that you can get these pills online without an in-person doctor visit.
The Trump administration is currently investigating the abortion pill for safety concerns. Still, pro-life activists worry the FDA's recent approval of a generic pill will make the drug even more accessible. For now, Pro-life states are fighting back. Texas Governor Greg Abbott recently approved a bill allowing private citizens to sue out-of-state abortion providers. They are up against shield laws in at least 8 states that prevent states that ban abortions from suing providers in states where the procedure is legal. California lawmakers are going further with a bill to remove names from prescriptions in order to protect those who prescribe and dispense the pill.
Blue states are completely disregarding state sovereignty of red states. They're disregarding the laws and the judicial processes of red states.
Louisiana is already fighting a New York abortionist who shipped pills to the state and has sued the FDA for allowing pills to be mailed nationwide.
To ship a pill from another state is equivalent to me of shipping fentanyl or any other type drugs over here.
Pro-life leaders expect that the Supreme Court will ultimately weigh in on these disputes. For now, Hawkins, Pritchard, and others are going to college campuses, state capitals, and Congress, fighting to promote individual decisions for life and policies that encourage them. Heather Sells, CBN News.
Still ahead, a new life for an abandoned church in Washington, D.C. will show you how its restoration is fulfilling biblical prophecy and sparking a revival in the nation's capital when we come back. A church that served Washington, D.C.'s community for more than a century sat empty and abandoned for years. Now it is under new ownership and getting a new life. National Community Church is reimagining this age-old space for future generations. CBN Washington correspondent Michelle London has the story.
For more than a century, this building served as a church. Then, like most neglected D.C. properties, it fell into disrepair. In 2002, visionaries purchased the building, turning it into an art venue. Now, Pastor Mark Batterson says he plans to blend and preserve its legacy with a new season of creativity and culture. A space for praise and worship in one room, and to enjoy art in the next. Walls that hold decades of prayers also showcase the work of local D.C. creatives, like National Community Church artist-in-residence Benjamin Baum.
When people interact with the painting, their mind immediately goes to a verse in the gospel. And I think that embodies what I want to do with most of my artwork.
And why is this needed in today's time for your generation?
When we look back on people who have done so much for us, we tend to forget that the reason why we have these amazing pieces of art, the reason why we have cultural giants today, is because somebody took a step that was dangerous and vulnerable for their well-being.
A D.C. cultural giant showcased here in Baum's painting is Robert Laws, a formerly enslaved man who took that dangerous leap of faith back in the 1800s.
Born on a plantation in Virginia, 1837, 1863, escapes on foot, walks all the way to Washington, D.C.
Pastor Mark Batterson points to the archives, which show Laws and his wife Patsy held their first church gathering back in 1875. Under his guidance, the original building would be constructed 11 years later by one of the city's oldest black congregations.
From 1886 all the way through urban renewal in the 50s, the revivals that would happen in the 20s and 30s.
Over the years, the church, known as Friendship Baptist, endured adversity. After 3 congregations, the building was abandoned for nearly 20 years. Now, Pastor Mark and NCC are stepping up with a vision for the landmark.
The history of the church is a relay race, and we take the baton from the last generation, we hand it to the next generation. And so we really view ourselves simply as stewards.
From one generation to the next, these men agree that NCC is the ideal place to advance Culture House's new vision.
I'm really grateful to NCC, not only for adopting this vision, but holding the history in place and not tearing it down, but building something on top of a solid foundation.
They've done an outstanding job of memorializing the history of the building, because the history, in fact, dictates things for the future.
D.C. native Donald Isaac developed a special connection with Friendship Baptist over the years. He's excited to see what Culture House will become.
Seldom do you see the pastor's name being broadcast. They do it not for individual glory, not for their congregational glory, but for the glory of God and for the building of the kingdom.
It's not about the name over the church door, it's about the name above all names. And so I think a lot of churches, a lot of groups will use this space.
A space that provides a gathering place and ministry outreach for the local community while celebrating the arts. But above all, Pastor Mark hopes Culture House will unleash gifts within the church.
To be able to inherit, to honor that history, but also give it new vision, new life, not just as an art gallery, an event venue, but a place where we worship once again is pretty special.
The Culture House's transformation over the years reflects Scripture. Isaiah 58:12 reads, "Your people will rebuild the ancient ruins and raise up the age-old foundations. You will be called repairer of broken walls, restorer of streets with dwellings." Pastor Mark says the time for revival in the nation's capital is here and now. Michelle London, CBN News, Washington.
And we're back with an encouraging word for your Tuesday. Stay with us. Time now for your Tuesday Tweetable, and here I'm sharing a word I pray blesses you, and I pray you will post, tag, tweet, and share it with those in your circles of influence. Be still, silence the noise, and listen. God is speaking. He wants your heart, and He wants your ear. He's not asleep, and He is not being silent. Jesus is indeed calling, and He's waiting for you to come home. Silence the noise in your mind, and hear His heart for your life. That is going to do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. You can always find more of our news programs on the CBN News channel. You can find them there at any time, as well as online, cbnnews.com. We'd love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us, newswatch@cbn.com. You can also reach out and touch us on Facebook, Instagram, and X. We'll see you back here same time tomorrow. Goodbye and God bless.